Hey, welcome to Divinely Uninspired, episode 14. We're excited. We're with you. We got a lot to talk about. I'm here with April. April, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You seemed a little sassy in our meeting earlier. I'm just checking on you, making sure you're okay.
I'm never sassy.
No?
I don't know where you got that.
Sassy is your middle name.
Maybe.
What's actually your middle name?
Michelle.
Michelle. Okay. Like Obama. And I'm also here with Penny. Good to see you, Penny.
Hey there.
Anything new with you, Penny? What's new in your world?
Not a thing.
Okay.
Just being entertained.
You got a new car?
Oh, I did get a new car, but that's,
What is it?
It's an Outback. It's a wilderness model. So
Ooh, fancy.
It is fancy. Maybe I'll go like off-road or something.
Awesome. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
And then, as always, Jeremy, we're joined with him. How are you, man?
I'm good.
Good. Hey, so once again, we want to update you guys on something that's pretty important, something that we've talked about a lot in the past and gotten a lot of questions of, and we finally have a resolution, and that is regarding April's I Lost the Game shirt.
Whatever.
And so we came up with a plan that she has agreed that she is going to wear the shirt on Valentine's Day Sunday.
Well, it's not actually Valentine's Day. It's the day before Valentine's Day.
The day before, so the 13th.
The 13th.
February 13th. She is going to be gilded in her brand new shirt that is neither blasphemous nor
Whatever.
sacrilegious.
Are you
right?
good? You're good for announcements that day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whatever.
Gotcha.
She's actually leading worship that day from what I heard.
Yeah.
You don't want that.
No, we won't be entertained
And
by
you
it.
won't be entertained by it.
We had an argument before this started about whether or not people go to church to be entertained. And the cynic in me says, of course they go to church to be entertained. And everybody else has a different take on that. But April is vehemently against people being entertained at church. She
That
thinks
is not true.
You should be bored to tears.
And that it can't be fun.
That is not true. I said you do not go to church to be entertained. That's what I said.
I'm a pastor and I go to church to be entertained.
Whatever,
so
Rusty.
I think that most people do. So April, comments about the resolution of wearing your shirt finally.
I'm being forced to do it, of course.
So
Not being forced.
Jeremy's going to fire me if I don't wear it. So I guess I should wear it.
It was an agreement.
it was.
I don't
was
really
an
remember
agreement.
that, but whatever.
And
I'm
we-
going to do it just to get it done.
How about this? We'll play another game.
But there's paybacks.
We'll play another game at some point, and we'll put whatever stakes you want to put on the line, and it'll be equal shot, and we'll see who wins.
Nope. I'm not playing any more games with y'all.
No.
None. I'm out.
There will be
This
more
is
games.
it. I'm done.
No, you cannot retire. Anyways, before we do anything else, here's the song. Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're listening to Divinely Uninspired, podcast by Journey Church Shepherdsville, hosted by Jeremy Willis and me, Rusty Wilson. You can find us online at journeyshepherdsville.com. For questions or comments, email podcast@journeyshepherdsville.com. Maybe we'll feature your question or comment on a future episode. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the show.
I think I got a game that April can win that she'll agree to play.
What? I'm curious.
Redeeming Love Q&A, like
Oh
a
my
trivia, like
gosh.
a trivia for Redeeming Love. I'll read it. I'll
gosh.
actually read
Please
the book.
don't.
I will read the book, and then we'll have a trivia go head to head.
Nope. That'll be an all girls only podcast if we ever do that.
I
No
don't
guys
know. I
allowed.
think that sounds like a brilliant plan.
Of course you would.
It's your book.
Whatever. I'm not talking to you all today.
Well, you're on a audio medium of not entertainment. This is not entertainment because this is almost like church. There's more than two of us gathered, and it's in His name.
Whatever.
So we will make sure not to do anything entertaining today. Well, I'm not entertained because I have to talk about the NFL, and my team bit the dust against the Bengals, my Tennessee Titans. I mean, everybody kept saying like, "Oh, they're gonna lose. They're one seed, but they're not very good." And we are good. Our quarterback's not very good. So we're gonna do our updated NFL playoff predictions, and Jeremy's gonna complain about the Packers for a minute, I guess. So, or you do not want to?
No, it's whatever.
So is Rodgers is done? You think?
Well, the big rumor was he was going to go to Denver or San Francisco, and Denver this morning hired his offensive coordinator as their head coach. So I would say that's not looking good.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah. And we can't afford him anyway, so we're going to have to cut like a whole bunch of people and be over the salary cap and all this confusing stuff. So I'd say he's done. It was very disappointing the way he went out. I would have, if he would have won the Super Bowl and walked away, I would feel completely different.
Sure.
But the fact that he played as terrible as he did at home against a team that we'd already beat once this season pretty handedly, it's just kind of like whatever. It's frustrating.
Oh, I could not care less about the playoff at this point. But we're going to talk about it anyway because I know that other people do. So what are your playoff predictions? So just to recap who's left, we've got the Bengals taking on the Chiefs this weekend, and then the 49ers and who?
The Rams.
The Rams. That's it. I knew there was one I was forgetting. And that's the team that I think is going to go all the way. So my prediction is it's going to be Chiefs, Rams, and I think Matthew Stafford is going to get a Super Bowl ring. I don't like it, but that's what I think is going to happen. So not very, you can tell by my tone, I am not entertained.
It's our word of the day.
It is.
Oh my gosh, I do not
Entertained.
like you all.
I could do a Pee Wee Herman thing. It's one of the day.
Oh my gosh.
Not a lot of people will get that, by the
No,
way.
probably not. But probably people who listen to this podcast will at least know who he is. All right, Penny, what's your prediction? Who you got?
I'm going to go with you as well. Although the 49ers and the Rams game it's exciting, right? Two teams you weren't expecting to go against each other. But the Chiefs, they're going to slaughter probably Cincinnati. So Chiefs and Rams, hopefully the Rams come out on top.
All right. Jeremy, who you got?
I'm going to go opposite. I agree that I think the Chiefs are going to start beating Cincinnati pretty bad, but Joe Burrow is one of those guys I don't think he loses. Like, I think I think he likes being behind too. And so I'm actually going to say Cincinnati is going to pull the big upset. And I do agree the Rams, I think, are going to slaughter the 49ers. What's interesting about the Packers 49ers game, if that game had been played in San Francisco, I think Green Bay wins. But that game, at the way the conditions of it, and San Francisco is a running team, and they are built with a strong defense that's hard to play against anyway. But in sunny weather, I think the Rams are going to run all over them. So,
all right. And finally, April.
I don't really care. I'm just excited about the halftime show.
So your prediction is that the halftime show will not be terrible?
And it's going to be awesome.
What's the over-under on a wardrobe malfunction?
I don't know.
Not with this group,
Not
right?
with this group. Yeah, you got Snoop Dogg, Mary J. This is going to be awesome.
It's going to be epic. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to lie.
I'm pretty pumped about this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
Drake is in it, right?
Not Drake.
No, Kendrick Lamar. Is that another one of them?
No, hold on. I'm trying to think. It was Mary J. Blige. What, Dr. Dre?
Dr. Dre.
Snoop. My favorite.
Eminem.
I do like
Are you
Eminem too.
serious?
And maybe the greatest rapper of all times that Russ, you just mentioned, and you apparently don't even know he's in it.
No, I don't. So I'll say there you go. I'm just excited about Snoop, Dr. Dre, and Mary J.
Kendrick Lamar is going to be in it.
what
Don't even know who he is.
He's like the best rapper ever.
When did he rap?
He's rapping right now.
That's why I don't know who he is.
His albums are critically acclaimed. They're very well received by music critics.
Well, good for them.
What is it? I think the famous album is To Something a Butterfly. I think it's inappropriate.
Never heard of it.
But he's a good rapper.
Yeah, go look it up on
I'm not like
Spotify.
condoning his music because he does say bad stuff, but like as far as someone that raps, like the actual like rapping part of rapping, I guess, which is important, he's really good at it.
Okay, we'll see about that on the halftime show. But I will go with the Chiefs just because I like that name.
Okay.
That's
All
who I'm
right.
going to pick.
That's
I mean,
Listen.
I'm quarter Indian, so I'm kind of offended by you.
Shut up. You're always offended by me. That's nothing new.
No, I'm not.
it takes quite a bit to offend him.
Yeah, I don't get easily offended at
That's
all.
what he says.
You're stepping on his ancestral heritage now.
I'm so scared.
He's a First Nation person.
Shut up.
Oh my gosh.
I quit. I'm leaving right now.
All right. So those are our predictions. We're probably going to be wrong. I mean, one of us probably has to be right. I think every team got picked at some point. So except for the 49ers, they have no hope. So prayer apps. Apparently these, I don't use a prayer app. I don't need an app to pray, but some people apparently like them, having an opportunity to use a software to ask for prayer requests or offer up praises. But an article came out this week from Relevant Magazine, kind of shining a light on some of the dark side of this notion of what happens in those apps. So first off, does anybody here use a prayer app? The ones that are particularly popular at this moment are Hallow. I've not used that one. I've not even heard of that one. And Pray.com and Glorify. You use any of these?
No.
I've
No.
never even heard of them.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I've heard of them, but I don't use any of them.
Yeah.
Jeremy, don't pray.
I do pray. I go into the closet like Jesus says.
Thank
I shut the
you.
door where nobody can see it, and I pray in there.
I'm so proud of you,
I
Jeremy.
don't literally actually do that, but
Oh,
I do.
so
I do
say-
pray where nobody can see me. Anyway, but keep going.
Yeah. All right. I was just thinking about your prayer closet. And
That was I don't actually
Yeah.
have a prayer closet.
I wish you did.
He does.
I
He's
wish it
lying.
was where the skulls were in your office.
Ooh, that'd be a good prayer closet.
Yeah.
I actually is gonna become my
Your-
prayer
Would
closet.
it be
I
your?
know.
It would be your war room.
Yeah, my
Oh
word.
my gosh.
I'm just curious what you guys think. Like before, did anybody read the article?
I did.
Oh, okay, so you
Real
know.
quick though, I think we need to make a comment because I do have a closet with skulls in it, but that can sound really weird to a lot of people.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's in the attic here
All
at
right,
church.
we'll just let it go for now.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Did you all read this article, Penny or Jeremy?
I did.
Oh, okay, so Penny, what do you think? This is a quiz. What do you think might be the downside of a prayer app?
I would say probably putting your business out there. And also, it is the internet. So things track you. So I would assume that it would be like just invasion of privacy issues.
Yeah, so there you
You're
go.
correct.
You are very, very correct. So the concern here is that if you read the legal mumbo jumbo, the end user license agreement, the terms of service, whatever they want to call it for these apps, they sell your information on these apps. So you're sharing your prayer requests, whether that may be something very, very personal or maybe something just hopeful. They are selling that information to advertisers, and they are learning how to market to you successfully based on your prayer requests, which isn't shocking, I guess. It is.
No, not
And,
really.
I mean, here's the thing. All right, so I think it's corrupt. First of all, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, if you're struggling with something and you're trying to find help, and you put it out there in this prayer app, and then the next day you get like an email from this company that can help you with your problem, like some people be like, oh, that's a God thing. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh,
like
yeah.
I can see
Mhm.
like both sides of it, like kind of like, yeah, I don't think it's right they're selling information. But I could also see like if somebody's going through a tough time with a divorce, and then the next day they get an email or Facebook message or whoever they sell this to for like a counseling service or something like that, then like, okay, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's definitely bad, like what they're doing. But
Sure.
like I also could be like somebody else in another context might be like, I've been really struggling with this, and then I prayed about it, and then you know this came up, and you know who knows?
It could also be like, dear God, please help me with my failing marriage. My wife and I just don't connect anymore. And the next day you get an ad for Tinder.
Yeah,
my gosh.
Okay,
Yeah, so it could go the opposite
well,
way.
that's what I said. It can go both ways.
So here's the thing that was a little more egregious in my mind, and that is that BibleGateway.com, which I think every one of us
Yes.
probably have used at some point in time. I didn't know this, but it's owned by Rupert Murdoch,
Mhm.
who also owns like Fox News and several other media conglomerates, newspapers, and things like that. And Bible Gateway uses an AI called News IQ, which, quote, captures the preferences, opinions, and emotions of users based on the scriptures they are looking up,
Mhm.
and then advertising according to the scriptures you're looking up, which that just seems so manipulative. I mean, I guess it is. It's advertising is pulling on your heartstrings, but I don't know. It doesn't sit well with me.
No,
So-
I agree.
I don't know. Anybody else have any, or maybe it's just like, well, get
I think
over
it's
it.
just the world we live in. I
Yeah.
think
Me
it's messed
too.
up, but I'm like, everything's manipulative.
Yeah.
Like Nike told me I can't jump unless I wear their shoes, you know, or, you know, I can't run fast enough. I mean, it's just all manipulation of like trying to convince us into things. It's just now the hard part is we're putting personal information out there,
Sure.
but you're also, you're choosing to do that. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to. I mean, I don't know. So I think it's just the world we live in. I mean, it is weird, but it's just also, I think, part of our reality.
Yeah, and the fact that honestly these, you know, it sounds like, oh, that's awesome that there's an app out there to help you pray. It's a big moneymaker because all of our information is what do they say? If you aren't paying for a service or a product, you are the product, right?
Mhm.
So like Facebook's free. It's not free. You're the
Right.
you're the product.
Yours is being sold.
venture capitalists who are invested in these companies, it's a little like, oh, these aren't people who are interested in people's spiritual well-being at all. And
I think you're being tracked literally though for everything. I know when we had COVID,
Now,
like we were getting ads for Robitussin, the next day on Facebook or whatever.
Did you get the vaccine?
Of course I got the vaccine.
Then you're being tracked by that little chip.
Oh,
they put
that's
in
right. I
you.
forgot about that.
You know what could be cool about this though, like theoretically, is like, so you have the prayer thing. So like one of the things we always pray about is, God hear us? Is God listening? Yada, yada, yada. So like if they switched it and it was like you type in your prayer of what you want, and then the AI looks at it, but then they reply with like some Bible verses or like inspirational quotes or like some books or something you could read, like that would kind of be like, at least like helpful versus,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like at least use the stuff you're stealing to help the person, like send them something encouraging back or something. I don't know. Like,
so is God just an AI?
Well, we can get into that discussion later, but
I actually just think, is the website or the app effective? Because you can put out prayer requests, but like we all know when you tell somebody something and they're like, oh, I'll pray for you. Do they actually?
That's what I was going to say. Are they really praying?
Or they do the thing where they say, of course I will. And then they call so-and-so, hey, you really need to be praying for Penny because she just told me. And it's just a way to gossip.
Yeah. But that's a pet peeve of mine. If you say you're going to pray for me and you don't, and I find out about it, I'm going to hunt you.
How do you know if they prayed for you or not?
I don't know, but if I find out they did, I'm just joking.
I actually think that if you say to them, I will pray for you, that in that moment you are praying for them because you're putting,
you're lying.
I
Sorry.
don't.
I actually do believe that.
I believe that.
It's like when you're like in a group and everybody gives their prayer requests. Like, so we go around, let's say we all had something we wanted to pray for. And then we say those things out loud, okay, as a group. And then we're like, and now we're going to pray as if God didn't just hear all of those things you just said.
Well, of course he did. But when I'm asking someone to pray for me, I expect them to pray for me.
No,
so what you're saying is when I say, Rusty, I need you to pray, you're not really praying for me. You just told on yourself.
I got to be honest. I don't pray for anybody. I don't pray. I fall asleep. But no, I really do. I really think that the act of listening to somebody you care about and then telling them, I'm so sorry that you're going through that. I'm praying for you. I think if you say, I will pray for you, then you have to, because it's a future. But if you say, I'm praying for you, that's like an ongoing thing, which me saying that to you is I'm throwing it up right there. Jesus, hear my prayer for April.
Next time in our staff meeting, I'm just going to have us all hold hands and pray.
Well, I always call somebody and tell them what you told me to pray for. So everybody knows your business.
I don't care. Everybody knows my business anyway.
That's probably true. All right. So just if you're using those prayer apps, they might be good for you. They might be bad for you, whatever. It doesn't really matter to me. Just be aware that your information is out there. What's a miracle? What's your definition of miracle, April?
I would say something, I don't know, something out of the ordinary that can't be explained, maybe. I don't know.
All right. Penny, what's your definition of miracle?
I would say something out of the ordinary, cannot be explained, something unexpected. I don't know. It's really hard to describe what a miracle would be because I got to be honest, I don't think I've witnessed like one of miracles or something that you would have read in the Bible. I don't know.
Sure. So Craig Keener, he is a New Testament scholar out of Asbury University, Theological Seminary rather. And he back in 2011 wrote a 2-volume set on miracles. And it was mostly focused on miracles in the scriptures and what that means and what we do with that. And he is releasing a brand new book, all about modern day miracles and what we as Christians we're definitely in a post-Christian world, and some would even call it a post-truth world where truth is relative. Like you have your truth, right? Yeah. We have alternative facts and things like that. And he talks about how we interact with them as Christians and how we as Christians perceive them. And I know that that's one of those things, like you said, you've never think you've witnessed one. I mean, the miracle of childbirth, right?
Right. That's different. I'm talking about like,
yeah, we can explain that. We know how that happens.
Yeah.
But
science.
Well, we do. I mean,
no, I know what you mean.
I'm not going to explain it, but we know
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate that.
But so April, you come from a more Pentecostal background. You ever seen a miracle?
I'm a miracle. I'm just joking.
Well, aren't we all?
No, I have not.
Okay.
So,
no healings, no exorcisms.
No, and I mean, I don't want to be cynical about it by any means, because I definitely think Jesus can do whatever Jesus wants to do. But no, I mean, and I have been to some pretty crazy Pentecostal events where,
Yeah.
people are being hands laid on. And,
Being slayed in the spirit.
yeah, and they'll say they're sick or they're healed and they're not healed. Like, I don't.
Yeah. So this is going to be really insensitive. Insensitive to some, I'm sure. But I sent you that video of Gemma, my 2-year-old.
Yes.
I would she would stand on the bed and I'd push her head and I'd say, I'm slaying you.
Yeah.
And she would fall straight
down.
back. Well, now every night she'll come in and run, jump on the bed and she'll go, Daddy, slay me. And so she's getting slain in the spirit almost daily.
See, you're Pentecostal and didn't even know it.
I knew it. I've known it for forever.
I believe it.
Shut about a Honda. That's my speaking in tongues. So
That's all of them. They all sound like that.
yeah.
No, I had to unlearn a whole lot from the Pentecostal church. So yeah, I'm,
Sure. All right, so we need to go to our resident expert on miracles. So Jeremy, let's talk about what does Jeremy think?
What does Jeremy think
about miracles?
I would say I'm in the same boat as Penny. I have never experienced what would be miraculous. I think people. One of the things we're really guilty of is like childbirth, like the miracle of childbirth. Well, no, like we know how that happens. Like you were designed, whether you believe it was through evolutionary process or designed by God, like you were designed for that to be a part of, thing. Now it's a special, like every human being is special. And so it's awesome when kids are born. But when you think about the actual idea of miracle, to me, it's this thing that's unexplained by the laws that govern our space-time, world that we live in. There's things that we just can't explain. Now, the question would be, will we eventually be able to explain some of those things? And that's a great question. I don't know. I think that there may be some things we would deem miraculous now that later on we might be able to say, oh, well, this is why that happened. And that's a very real possibility. The thing when it comes to miracles in the Bible, I think that people need to be really focused on is they weren't normative. That's why they were so special that people wrote them down. It wasn't like stuff that was happening all the time. I mean, even with Jesus, it's not like Jesus is constantly doing miracles. Now, a lot of those are written down because they were these special things. One of the things I talk about in the What is the Bible class is you got to remember it was expensive and hard to write things down. So when you wrote things down, something special had to have happened. And so it wasn't like all of that. And even like the history of it. So the thing about miracles is they were not normative. That's why they stood out so much. So it's not like they're happening all the time. Usually there's a reason that a miracle was happening. It was to do something to promote who Jesus was or what he was doing or to show a sign so that people would believe in those type of things. So that happens a lot with all of that. So as far as miracles, I don't know what we do with them. I've never seen one. I have been places, and probably in Guatemala even, but I know in Honduras, we met a family where the son had died and then came back to life, 6 or 7 minutes later. I mean, that's what the family's saying. Now, we know that you could actually be unconscious and actually technically die for a period of time. And then your heartbeat starts going again. You start breathing again and you come back to life. Like, I think there's people who've done that 10, 15 minutes even before. So that's not necessarily miraculous because we know that we can do that. I mean, it's about electricity in your body. Anyway, so like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what you do with that stuff. Now I have, and we talked about this before, I think we talked about demons. I know missionary friends and even people from other parts of the world that will tell me stories. And these are like rational people. Like these are not people that would just lie and make this stuff up, that will tell me things that are like unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? I mean, almost like this miraculous type of thing. And so I don't know what to do with them, to be honest with you, because it's like, I think that they did happen. I think that Jesus was able to do things and even the apostles were able to do things. And there's obviously things in the Old Testament that are unexplainable. I mean, Rusty, you probably know this. I don't know if they do. I mean, there's a lot of things in the Old Testament now that we can go back. We've learned that we actually can't explain why that happened and can make you kind of cynical at times. But that's what I'm saying is there's stuff, if we live on this planet for another 1,000 years, there's going to be things in 1,000 years we can explain that right now we can't. And I just don't know. But I think God can do what he wants when he wants. And, I think that, they weren't normative then, they're not normative now. And so we have to kind of be open to that. And if you are lucky enough to be someone that's experienced a miracle, then I'd really like to meet you because I don't think I've ever met anybody that's actually when they tell me the story, actually really experienced what I would call like a miraculous thing.
So I've never actually seen one, but I have friends that are missionaries, and I have a set of friends that are missionaries in North Africa, which is a heavily Islamic area, and we were talking to them one day and just chatting about some of the experiences they've had, and these are not and this is not to throw shade. They are not charismatic Pentecostal individuals that are predisposed to believing miracles, being ready to see miracles. And, we just asked, like, what's the craziest thing you've seen? Cause they've not just been there a little while. They've been there a long time. And, they said, well, we saw a woman, a woman healed from a heart defect. And we'd been praying over this woman, and they were kind of at the end of their rope. Like, it was, we can't do anything else for you. We've done everything we can. And we just prayed over this woman. We did that for quite a while. And she went in for one of her follow-up appointments, and they did a scan, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with your heart anymore. That issue has cleared up. And so they were like, we don't really know how to explain it. But we know that we asked God to take care of it, and he did. And so sometimes I wonder if, like, we put too much stock into understanding why things happen.
Right? Yeah. And I think that's a good point. Cause I think, even when I just said, I've never experienced a miracle, people are going to be like, you've met me and, we went through cancer and we survived and like we were going to, or I've had friends like with their kids that had just like crazy birth stories of their kids and their kids made it. And I'm not the person that can say whether that was or wasn't a miracle. And so just ignore everything I just said there. But like, I've seen people go through really unbelievable things, but at the end of the day, for some of those things, it's kind of like, was it science? And our bodies are amazing. Like, our bodies are capable of doing things way beyond what we even understand they're capable of doing, or was it something like actually like miraculous? And I think that that's one of those things, like, I agree with you. Like, sometimes I think we focus too much on that, and, and I don't know if that helps.
Well, I just think that maybe in some way, and this might cheapen what we consider a miracle, but maybe the bigger role of a miracle is to draw us closer to God anyway. Like, and maybe I don't know that. I don't think that cheapens it actually. I think that's probably the purpose.
I mean, I talked about that a couple of weeks ago in my sermon, and I picked it up from somewhere, and I can't remember where I picked it up from, but the in between the trees thing, and the way the world was supposed to be. So before it was a way, and then after the tree, which is in Revelation, it'll be another way. So it's always been and always will be, and we live in between. And it's kind of like this theology of right now is actually the disruption. And so like the idea is when miraculous things happen, when Jesus was able to heal people, when Jesus was able to do these unbelievable things, is that actually the disruption? Or is that actually the normal thing in the way the world God wants it to be? Do you know what I'm saying? Like that death and sickness and all that is actually the disruption. And when Jesus is able to heal these people, that's actually the way what's normal. It's a weird way of thinking about it, but like if it's always been that way and it always will be that way, we live in the disruption. And so it's almost like miracles are like these like little like breakthroughs of like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be, and
we're living in the tribulation, April.
Oh,
no,
yes.
that is not what I'm saying.
That's what you said.
At all. Not at all.
You heard it here first, folks.
No.
We are in the tribulation.
Oh, well.
The 7 years is figurative, and it's actually.
I was speaking more about Jesus was here on earth, but anyway, go ahead with your tribulation.
Well, Jesus lived to be like 33. So 33 divided by 7 is like, what is that? That's not even, that's like 5 point.
I don't know. You're killing me.
What is happening?
It wouldn't be 5. It'd be lower than 5. It would be like 4.673.
Oh my gosh.
We're going to be in the tribulation for 4.6 more years. And then I don't think that's.
I'm already in the tribulation.
What if it's actually a comma? It's like 4 billion years.
I can't handle that math. I'm not good at math. All right. Well, that was what Jeremy thought.
That's what Jeremy thought.
And now you have all the answers regarding miracles.
I feel like I just basically was like, what does you ever think? I really have no idea what I think about it.
That's okay.
I think that's kind of where we got with miracles.
Well, I think that's helpful though, because for a lot of people, and I don't say this in jest, like they think that pastors have all the answers. And so when you're able to be like, I don't know, could be that we just can't explain it yet. If you're interested in the book by Craig Keener that is called Miracles Today, sold by Baker Academic or published by them, 304 pages for $24.99.
I'm going to buy it.
You should.
I am.
You would like it.
I sure would.
Okay, so before we get into our final little topic here, we've got some stuff that's going on here at Journey. The next few events on February 1st, I think that's like a Tuesday night, we are having a preteen skate night at Skate-O-Rama. If you haven't signed up for that, you can do that on the app, which is where you can find almost everything you need to know about Journey. And on the 5th of February, I'm really excited about this. We're having a men's breakfast, and people ask me questions about, like, is this men serving breakfast to women? And I said, well, no, because then it'd be a women's breakfast. And they were like, oh, well, I just thought it was like a men's opportunity to serve. And no, you are being served by other gentlemen who are going to make you breakfast. And we're just going to kind of talk through a lot of the things that we have planned for 2022 in men's ministry, kick around some ideas, maybe throw a football or two. I don't know what we're going to do. But that is from 8 to 10 a.m. Saturday, February 5th. You sign up for that on the app. And then parents of kids in our middle and high school ministry, there is a winter retreat coming up in March, the 4th through the 6th. That's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You can sign up for that with the app and talk to Spencer Connor, our student minister, who is not with us today. He didn't pass away or anything. He's just not here. Whenever you say, well, they're no longer with us, it just makes me sound like
shows up on Sunday. It's a miracle.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, that's a good one, Penny.
I should have. I'm going to edit this out so that people think he's dead and then shows up. So,
oh my gosh.
I'm sure.
I want to start doing that. Just talk about everybody in the past tense.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're not here with us because they're not with us right
That's
now.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. So, what country do you think it's the hardest to follow Jesus?
United States.
No, okay.
I'm totally
that's
joking.
number one.
Totally joking.
I've read the article. Do you mean?
Yeah,
Sure.
me
no,
too.
No. Oh,
I
you read
know.
the. I'm going to stop sending you all this stuff.
I read the article.
Because I like it better when you don't know. All right. So, what is it? Open Door Ministries.
Yes.
They
Or Cool Ministry.
They do international type of documentation and things like that to look at what's happening in the world in reference to Christianity. And they came out with their report for 2022, and they had some interesting numbers about where it is most difficult and or dangerous to be a practicing Christian. And the United States is not on there, which we're going to talk about here in a minute because I already kind of anticipate what some people might say. But Penny, did you read the article?
I didn't.
All right.
No.
What do you think? What do you think the hardest? I've got the top 10 right in front of me. I'm curious what you think number one is.
I don't know. Maybe an Arabic country, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, China. Put China in there somewhere.
So
You're dancing all around it.
You're really close.
Think of the big one right now. That's the big one right now that everybody's having trouble with.
We just evacuated.
With Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Syria?
Afghanistan. So here's the top 10 list of where it's hardest to follow Jesus. Number 1, Afghanistan. Number 2, North Korea. Number 3, Somalia. 4, Libya. 5, Yemen. 6, I don't even know where this is on the map.
I don't either.
8, Eritrea. I don't know where Eritrea is. Number 7, Nigeria. Number 8, Pakistan. Number 9, Iran. Number 10, India. There are a few surprising ones on here that you get into. For example, Cuba is on the list as one of the most difficult places to become a Christian or to follow Jesus rather. And it's because of the way they word it is dictatorial paranoia. Mm-hmm. So the leader in charge there is afraid of Christians, and also Mexico. And Mexico, the reason it is hard to follow Jesus is because of the cartels.
Mexico surprised me.
Yeah,
when I read the article.
Well, what was interesting too, I think, about like Afghanistan, it was hardest to be a Christian based on the fact that because now, especially so all the governmental things going on, it's illegal to be a Christian. Like you can't be a Christian, but they actually weren't even the most persecuted or the most violent.
I know that surprised me too.
Like that was interesting too.
Yeah,
to see
so
the countries that were more violent and more like physically persecuted.
Right. So the country where the Christians were martyred most, coming in well above every other country by several thousand, was Nigeria,
which is crazy.
4,650 Christians were martyred in Nigeria.
That's 4,000 more than the next country.
Yes. Yeah. It's not, the next country is Pakistan at 620. And then the next country is 100. And that's tied for several. And then it dips into, the high 20s. So we're still seeing, they actually said that there was an uptick in martyrs this past year. The most, take a guess, Penny, since you didn't read the article, where do you think had the most church attacks?
I don't know. Probably another, I don't know, maybe Mexico. I'm thinking the cartel. I don't know. Arabic countries.
You named it at the beginning. It was one of the ones that you
Pakistan,
did.
Syria.
It's actually China.
China. So I'm surprised that it's on the list.
It's on the list as one of the hardest places, and they had 3,000 church attacks. So,
but that's also because the church is exploding in China. So there's a lot of churches to attack. So I think that's what's interesting about that is like in like a place like China, where not only is it so hard to be a Christian, but it's also at the same time like kind of blowing up on the underground scene, which I guess would logically make sense as to why there's more churches to attack. I mean, 3,000 churches is a lot.
Attacked by who? Like, does it say?
It mostly the communist government is the way that. So they actually break it down. It's an interesting report they put out, but they break it down. What is the cause of the difficulty? And so a lot of it is Islamic oppression, dictatorial paranoia, or the other way they put it is communist or post-communist governments. And so it's really, really interesting to see what the rest of the world is battling because, and this is what I want to get into, because there is still a lot of thought. You talk to a lot of Christian people or people who claim to be Christians here in the United States, who they interpret our current experiences in the United States of America as Christian persecution. And I just kind of wanted to get people's perspective on that. Like, do you believe in your heart of hearts that we are being persecuted here in the United States and as Christians? And if so, or if not, why?
Persecuted by who?
Great question. And anybody, the government.
No, I don't think we are at all.
No.
I have lots of reasons why I believe that, but I don't. I think for Christians to use the word persecuted is not only ignorant, but so insensitive to the people in the world that are actually being persecuted. And there's so many reasons why I believe that, but I really do. I think that, it almost makes me like angry when I hear people talk about that we're being persecuted here in the United States. And I'm like, you have no idea like what you're talking about at all.
But Jeremy, we're not allowed to pray in school.
Yeah. But first of all, okay.
Hobby Lobby has to buy contraception for their employees.
Here's the thing.
We're being persecuted for our faith.
The praying in school thing, I never understood. And here's why. I could pray in school anytime I wanted to. I just close my eyes. I don't have to close my eyes. I don't know where we made that part up at, but that's how I fall asleep. You can just pray. You don't now. Can you do this great, organized, and I think one of the things, and I wrote actually a paper on this in college, was just how we misunderstand freedom of religion. It's freedom for all religion, which means if we're going to let Christians pray in the school, then we have to let everybody else have their prayer time as well. Which is not something we want to get into. People get all bent on a shape. Well, they don't study the Bible in school. Well, go to college. You actually do study the Bible. Maybe not the way you thought, but the other thing is if we're going to start studying parts of the Bible in school, we open the door for all the other books, And so I think people just don't think through those things. And so it's actually to me a good thing that some of those things got removed from schools, to be honest with you. And people may not agree with me on that, but once you open that door, that was you have to read the documents. It was freedom for all religions. Well, and I would say, it is so easy to be a Christian in the United States of America. Now, when I say Christian, attend church in the United States of America.
Well, that's because we were founded as a Christian nation, Jeremy.
Which isn't true at all, but that's okay.
It's not?
No. Most of the forefathers weren't even Christians. Thomas Jefferson had a Bible he took himself that he ripped. And I think people just don't understand our history. And the people that came over here at first to escape state religion.
Yes.
That's what they came for. The Pilgrims are escaping the Church of England.
Yep.
Now they were religious and they founded, I guess, well, they didn't discover our country. There were people here that they mass slaughtered. So there's a whole issue there we got to talk
Your
about.
people.
My people, not really my people.
Oh, well,
I say that to joke, but I don't want to be insensitive to actual real Native Americans.
Okay.
So, you know, but so, yeah, I mean, there's just so much there that's just so jacked up that people just don't study. And I love America. And I think, you know, I think the problem is I'm very patriotic, but in no way am I a nationalist at all. And I think that's, we're going to ask the question, what's the biggest fear? That's my biggest fear. You know, I love America. I will defend America. I still think it's the greatest country. Well, what's interesting is there's a study came out that America is not the greatest country in the world. We're actually like number 22. And that's not to like make everybody mad, but like as far as like all the things that the countries offer, government.
Who's number one?
Finland.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the European countries usually are better, you know. But anyway, I'm not trying to debate all that, discuss all that. But no, it is so easy to attend church in the United States. There are things that are going to upset you about our government and things that get put in place, but to call those things persecution is not a real thing.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's about people, especially the younger generation, feel like it characterizes you as a Christian because only Christians believe this certain way when we all know that's not true. And I think that's the biggest issue. It's not persecution. It's just, I guess, thinking you are one way, but you're really not. And that's not how you think. And that's not the following of Jesus that the majority of us in the middle kind of believe. So I don't know.
Well, I would also argue that that Christianity in America actually sits in like the power seat. While they're for the first time ever in the United States since they've started documenting it, less than 50% of people are claiming Christianity. But so that we're not majority, but we're still of the religions in the United States. We're still the major religion, and you see that play out in politics. And I actually think the bigger question is who is the quote church, because I don't actually think this is the church, but people who claim to be a part of the church, who are American Christians persecuting? Because there's a whole bunch of them that I think if we're willing to step back and look at like, well, who are we oppressing? Because we're oppressing people, and that's just the reality of the world we live in. It's wrong, but I think that requires a long, hard look in the mirror.
Well, and I think too, like if you think about parts of the country where it is hard to be a Christian, there are parts, and I will give people that. And like I said a minute ago, with politics and entertainment and all those things, there's going to be things that offend you and upset you. That's just going to exist.
Not April, because she doesn't like entertainment. But
this is not saying that there's not things that our president or governor or, you know, political groups or organizations will say that aren't going to offend us or upset us. That's not what I'm saying. But to call it persecution, I mean, I would even argue, like if you go to the Pacific Northwest and the Atlantic Northeast, which typically are the hardest places, you know, for churches to exist and very, you know, but whatever, it's difficult up there to be a Christian. The worst they're going to do is be like, we don't want to hear your Jesus stuff. Like, it's not like these Christians even up there would say that they're being like persecuted. They're just, nobody's attending our church. Okay. Well, that's because of where you live. It's a very difficult place because of some of it's historical and some of it is cultural, that it's difficult to, you know, exist as a Christian there. But you're not being persecuted. You're
and
just
I think
being,
that's their fear.
Yeah, you're being maybe, you know, I'm sure people say not nice things to you, but that's a different thing than really persecution.
Let's take, for example, like Hollywood, right? The cancel culture happening right now within some of the, like Chris Pratt, Clint Eastwood. I mean, would you consider that persecution, since it is based upon a more conservative view of people, right? So is that persecution, or is that just unfair?
Well, I think with that stuff with Chris Pratt he's a Christian. And so he's in the national spotlight and he's in the media spotlight. Okay. So at the same time though, my defense about why this isn't really persecution is, as Chris Pratt, yes, he's taken a beating from certain people. But at the same time, he's also gaining an audience and building people that are supporting him. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the other thing is, you know, he chose that format. Now he could go and be the biggest Christian movie star to ever exist if he wanted to. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, and that's that world of Christian media versus secular media and all that stuff. But, you know, he could go and do that. And so I think it's not fair what some of them are doing to him, you know, and I think that also comes down to when you decide as like persecution. You know, to me, persecution is where someone is doing something to physically harm you, possibly kill you, or make what you're doing like almost impossible, like difficult to do. And I get that, like, you know, like maybe a Chris Pratt, like he may not be in some of the same movies that he would have been before, but you know, at the same time, like he has alternatives that
right,
he can
and he's
go
doing
to.
good. He's got a good life. That's,
And he's going to live a good life. Nobody from Hollywood's going to kill Chris Pratt. I mean, I wouldn't imagine.
Kick him out of California or anything crazy.
You know, but he also chose to live there as a Christian, knowing that that's a place that's difficult to be a Christian. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's not parts of our country that are not difficult, you know. And I think you made up a good point earlier of, well, how are we defining, and I think this is the bigger thing, how are we defining Christian? Because there are people from who we would, many people listening to this and maybe those around the table would say are liberal, okay, and they are Christians. And that also goes in that Christian nationalism, you know, because I think nationalism is different than patriotism is pride in your country. Nationalism is when you're deciding how it should be ran. You're defining how your country should exist. And I think there's a lot of people that would say, well, that side is not, you know, and I mean, I don't want to get into politics because that just makes everybody mad. But I think that's the danger of that is, who are we saying is and isn't Christian, you know? And, you know, parts of these countries, like the lines are very clear. The lines are very clear who your enemy actually is versus over here who our perceived enemy might be.
Well, and when you look at the cancel culture stuff, oftentimes it is Christians canceling other Christians whom they disagree with. So it's your conservative Christians canceling your liberal. I mean, going back to when Rob Bell wrote his book Love Wins, and you know John Piper tweeted out, you know, farewell Rob Bell or whatever, and that was, I mean, that's an example of cancel culture, because John Piper is essentially saying, like, this guy is no longer worth listening to, and I decree that. And so you have all kinds of people who say, oh, well, John Piper said we shouldn't listen to him, so I'm not going to listen to him. And that's a Christian canceling another Christian person. And so who believe differently. And I think that's, we start to get into the no true Scotsman fallacy, which is I know that if you don't know what that is, it's the idea that where you start creating qualifiers to make it so that essentially nobody except the people who follow my rules fall into the category. And it comes from the argument of, you know, well, no true Scotsman puts honey on their porridge. Well, my uncle puts honey on his porridge and he's a Scotsman, but he's not a true Scotsman, you know? So it's that idea of, well, no true Christian would be pro-choice. No true Christian could affirm somebody in the gay community. I feel like
that is very prominent in America right now.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And so let me flip this on his head, though. So let me ask you this. So for me, what this article is talking about is it's difficult to actually attend church, to be a Christian.
Right.
Okay. I would argue that the United States may be the most difficult place to be an actual follower of Jesus because of all of the things that pull at us and all of the things we get distracted on, politics included sometimes. And I do think that it should probably make the list if we're like recategorizing it. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Like that, I do think it's really hard to actually follow Jesus here because we love our stuff. We love our money. We love our power. You know, and Jesus is very clear in the kingdom that he's establishing is an upside down kingdom where the first are last, you know, and all that stuff. And the last shall be first. And that is not the way that we operate as a country, right or wrong. And so I think that it is difficult probably for many people. And I think that's why a lot of people get upset when I sit here and say, well, we're not being persecuted. Because you've taken what's the main thing and not made it the main thing anymore. And you've refocused on this. And so it is difficult at times to follow Jesus in America because of the way that we've been led and how we've defined what that looks like.
Yeah.
So
April, you've been kind of quiet over there. I'm curious. Do you have any thoughts or perspective?
Well, I definitely don't think we're being persecuted in America for sure. I think a lot of people, I think, would be more paranoid of losing their freedom, if that makes sense. Like I know I read an article, I want to say there's a town in Michigan that has now officially elected all Muslim officials. I think if I read that correctly. Yep. It'll be interesting to see, you know what I'm saying, what pans out, you know, in that city for sure. But I think that's the majority of what people worry about is just losing that right to worship, losing, you know, of course they don't come to church on a rainy day anyway, but.
Right. That's, yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I actually think that in places like that, what may shock us is that those places may do more for religious freedom
Mhm.
than
Yeah.
than
It's just that we don't like the religious freedom that they're allowing.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I listened to the Holy Post. I love that podcast. And they were talking last week. There's a school in Michigan where the local atheist community is trying to start what they're calling an after school Satan club.
Yes, I read about that. Mhm.
Which is just a hilarious name in and of itself, the After School Satan Club. It sounds like a really bad 80s movie. But, people are all upset about it because it's like, well, that shouldn't be allowed at this elementary school. And they're like, it's religion.
Well,
my
and let me
goodness,
say
yeah.
this. Let me say this, and it's going to take a lot of people off. So maybe in cities that we're worried about that somebody that doesn't have our faith system is going to get elected and shut down our religion, which isn't going to happen, by the way. I can promise you that because it's happened before and it didn't happen to those people. Maybe we should stop being who we are. I mean, every day I get on and see a scandal about some mega church
Oh my
pastor
gosh,
or
yes.
something.
Yep.
And so they look at that. I mean, and the worst that's going to happen to churches, the worst thing I see happen is we're going to get taxed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Some of us probably need to be.
Yeah.
I
Because
would
of the
agree with
way that we are operating. And I'm not talking about Journey. I'm talking about some of these churches and you know who I'm talking about. I'm going to name names. I mean, yeah, if I was a secular person and I was watching that and watching these people do these things
Yep.
with this money and it's not taxed and so they're able to do even more with it, like I'd be ticked off too. And I think that's again goes back to that bigger conversation of what are we talking about
Yep.
when we're talking about persecution in America? Because the way I see it, man, I know a lot of churches that are doing well and the pastors are doing well. And it's not what we're talking about when we're talking about real
Yep.
persecution.
I agree.
But at the same time, it's still difficult to follow Jesus because there's so many things that pull at your heart. So
Well, folks, you heard it here first. We're living in the tribulation. The last
Oh my gosh.
few years, and Jeremy thinks that Journey should be taxed. So
I didn't say we will. I said, if anything, that's what I could see possibly happening.
nope, you said we should. That's what I heard. That's what
Well,
I'm
and
gonna
some
edit.
people will agree with me that we probably should, but
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You all, if you want to hear what he really said, just rewind the tape. It's not really a tape. It's
Oh,
just a digital.
some people won't get that.
Slide it or
Yeah.
something, whatever you do.
Remember when you would go to the movie store and you'd run, please be kind and rewind, and then you'd take the movie home and the jerk before you didn't rewind it.
Yeah.
And
Didn't Blockbuster have like some crazy fee if you didn't rewind it?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it was like
It
twice
was.
the value of the movie or something.
I guess because that was like spoilers or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Well, does anybody have any parting words? Go Rams or Bengals.
Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs.
Go Snoop.
Go Snoop.
Snoop Dogg's
Dr.
going to win.
Dre.
I'm so excited.
You are so funny that's like that you're just like you're a trip. All right, that's our show. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. Once again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, send those to April. If you actually have anything that's of value for the podcast, send it to podcast@journeyshepherdesville.com. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.